Started today with a presentation today. I'm Marina Onken. I am the interim dean of the College of Business and Economics. We have within the College of Business and Economics a lot of things around innovation. And one of these events is the Innovator in Residence that we have every single semester, in which we bring an innovator in. And it could be it could be a CEO, it could be like we have today. We've had high-level people from 3M in other large companies, but we have also had people talking to us about innovation from an entrepreneurial perspective, small business owners as well. So we've had a wide range of people, and just the common theme is just around innovation. And there are so many different ways that we can innovate, whether it be a process, a product, the business itself, how we approach that, the business model, and so forth. So this is just a continuing theme. We also have an innovation challenge in which students get to work on ideas and turn them into business models and compete with those ideas, not only here in campus, but at the state level and at an international level too. And our students have won 3 times first place at the Wisconsin Big Idea Tournament. So our students do really a fantastic job here, and and it takes some coaching on our part as well. But we just find that is worthwhile. It's good time spent to help develop our students. They have that connection to the community. So I am here to introduce our speaker for today. Brooke Lee is the CEO and the 4th generation family owner of Anchor Paper Company, a dual source paper and packaging distribution company headquartered in downtown St. Paul with a retail location in Plymouth, Minnesota, and a recently expanded manufacturing facility here in River Falls. Brooke graduated with a BA from St. Olaf College in 2003. She moved to Japan following graduation and worked 2 years for the Nova Corporation in English language instruction and sales. She began working at Anchor in 2006 as a purchasing agent, and she has spent her first 7 years in various roles in the fine paper, industrial and packaging, seed solutions, and converting divisions. Since becoming the CEO in 2014, Brooke has been recognized by the National Association of Women Business Owners with an Achieve Award for leading a company into the 4th generation of business. She has also been named to both the Minnesota Business Magazine's The Real Power 50 list and to the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list in 2017 and 2019, respectively. Brooke serves on several industry boards to include the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Association of Independent Printing Paper Merchants. Additionally, she serves as a board member for Minnehaha Academy and for the nonprofit organization Spare Key. So when Brooke is not slinging paper and packaging products, she can be found cheering on her favorite sports teams or trying out the newest neighborhood restaurant or brew pub. She enjoys spending time with her family at their cabin in northern Minnesota, and she curls in Minnesota and Wisconsin during the winter months. So quite a wide range here. So I am introducing her today. She will bring up her presentation today, and I'm just going to turn it over to Brooke.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Onken. It is really wonderful to be with you all this morning, or as close as we can be these days. And just really a big thank you to all of you for showing up here and for committing to innovation and to thinking about things differently. That mind flex and curiosity really isn't always for the faint of heart. It takes courage to be innovative. It takes persistence. It takes grit and sometimes a little bit of luck. A commitment to innovation is really a commitment to constant improvement. And it's also a commitment to acknowledging change. And that can be really scary and daunting sometimes, especially in times like these where there's really not a playbook for what's going on. So it really is my pleasure to be here today to talk to you a little bit about an innovative story at my company. It's a part of our company story that I have a particular affinity to because it was with this particular product line that I cut my teeth at Anchor Paper with. So it's also a story of innovation that spans across decades and that involves all of those innovative qualities that I just touched on, to include a big risk that seems to be paying off. And since it's COVID-19, I'm going to knock on wood there because, you know, we continue to battle through that. Before I get into kind of the nitty gritty of that story, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and about Anchor. As Dr. Onken gave such a fabulous introduction, I was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I live there still today. I graduated from St. Olaf College in 2003 with a double major in psychology and gender studies and a minor in business management. My first job out of college was in Kyoto, Japan, where I did indeed work for Nova Corporation teaching English language, particularly business English, as well as early education, which basically meant I got really good at dancing around and teaching the hungry caterpillar in English. So great experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. I am an avid Minnesota sports fan, obligatory Skol for all you Packer fans out there. And as Dr. Onken indicated, I love to spend summers at a cabin up north with my family, and I curl in the winter. And the thing I'm most excited to do when the COVID kind of ebbs a bit is to travel. And this photo here on the left is just a little personalization of me. It includes some of my favorite things. This is my curling team. We were in Iceland back in 2019, taking a hike in this photo just before our first game of a tournament. And if you've never been to Iceland, I really encourage it. It's a great place, but this is kind of one of the things I really love to do when I'm not working. A few things about Anchor Paper. Couple highlights. When did we get our start? Well, we are fastly approaching our 100-year anniversary. We gained our inception here in the Twin Cities, May 15th in 1923. Where our assets, I'll reiterate them again. We have a headquarters and a warehouse asset here in downtown St. Paul, as well as a retail and warehouse asset in Plymouth, Minnesota, and then a recently opened manufacturing converting facility in River Falls, Wisconsin, just down the road. What do? We are a distributor and a converter of paper and packaging products and services. Say that fast 5 times, right? I'll unpack a little bit about what that all means in a bit, but want to highlight who we are. We think of ourselves as a problem-solving team of owners with an unyielding commitment to service. I'll unpack that a little bit. Anchor Paper, one of the unique things about us is that we are a hybrid ESOP company. So 49% of our company is owned by our employees. We're really proud of that. We're proud of the talent that we're able to attract with that, and the legacy that we're able to create. The picture that you see here on the left is a photo of our iconic sign. If you're ever driving out of the Twin Cities back to River Falls, Wisconsin, when you hit that 35 and 94 split, look up. You'll see a big red sign across the freeway lighting up in the city. And currently, or throughout the last 10 months, I guess, of COVID, we've hung a sign to remind everybody to stay positive. It's been a tough couple months, I think, for everyone, but I think sometimes these little reminders help, and it's, kind of the culture of our team. And then because you guys are business students, I figured I would dive into a little bit of our company secrets here and give you a profile of further of who we are and what we do. The customer verticals that we serve are primarily that commercial print sector and manufacturing, and specific to manufacturing, food and agriculture, shipping and fulfillment, e-commerce, retail, and then the medical sector. Our sales by division, you can kind of see broken up here. 52% of our revenue is really dedicated to fine paper products. So not just copy paper, but think of, high-end university brochures or, book papers, things of that nature. 41% of our revenue would fall into our industrial and packaging category. And when I say industrial and packaging, that really is a big bag. For us, it's not the box, but it's anything that's going to secure an item inside a box, or it's going to secure that box to a pallet. And then 5% of our revenue would be geared toward the seed germination division, which we're going to talk more about. And then 2% would be that retail DIY wedding invitation design sector. And to give you a little bit of context, Inker Paper is about a $60 million company. And when I started back in 2006, the fine paper side of our business made up just a little more than 70% of our overall revenue, followed by industrial and packaging, which was kind of creeping around that 27, 28, and then retail and seed made up the remainder. So you can see the dramatic change and shift in our company's revenue and portfolio. Paper is still really, really core to what we do, but that market is changing. And then finally, a little bit of where we fall into the supply chain. We are embedded squarely in the middle of it. So we're kind of, unless you're making wedding invitations or you work for a commercial printer or a manufacturer, you probably aren't going to know who we are. To highlight this a little bit, I've got a graph, and if we were thinking about it from the fine paper side of things, we would purchase our paper here from a paper mill, and then we would sell it to a commercial printer who would then print it, and it would go on to whomever the customer is. So I'm going to take a moment here to ask you the same question that I was asked by a manager on my first day at Inker. She was training me in, and she said to me, Brooke, what comes to mind when you think about an innovative paper product or application? So I'm going to take a moment to flip this on you guys and use the chat function and tell me what you think of with that question. And I can't see the chat, so Dr. Onken, are you able to?
Nothing's coming up yet. And so if people could put into the chat, when you think about innovation, what are some innovative things that we do with paper? Post-it notes is one.
Okay.
Colors, weights, sizes, and shapes. Something that is more durable, like a waterproof paper. Notepads, sustainability is another one.
Okay.
From recycled products, the paper on drywall, building components.
Okay, yep.
Packing material, antimicrobial, I can't say the word, paper.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that's trending right now, antimicrobial. You're going to see a lot of menu paper coming online that is going to feature that. So awesome. Yeah, so my answer to the trainer at the time, and partially because I knew my audience, right? I had been hired to support Inker Paper's industrial and packaging business, and I was hired specifically to support 3M. So my answer was, of course, the Post-it note, right? And the manager kind of looked at me and she smiled and she said, well, I can do you one better. She said, what if I told you, Brooke, that every meal you're going to have today, as well as anything that you're wearing that's made of cotton, is the direct result of a performed quality test conducted on seed germination paper? And I kind of said, huh? And she said, in other words, any item that results from a seed successfully germinating is first qualified on Inker Paper's seed germination papers. I'm going to show you a video of these papers in action, but before that, I'm going to highlight, just a few key components or applications of this paper. So a couple of key uses here. First of all, germination paper is the media utilized by most seed companies to complete testing required for compliance with the Federal Seed Act truth and labeling laws. So let's just think about anything that requires FDA approval, anything that's going to be consumed. There's compliance, there are requirements around that. Same thing with the food you eat. So our papers are essentially spec'd into those regulations and tests. They started by being spec'd into the federal tests here in the US, but now they've been spec'd into the globalized testing rules, which is great for us. The second item, the germination test that you're going to see is designed to show, the plant producing potential of a seed lot, i.e., think about, you know, a really wet summer. There might be some questions about the yield or the robust ability of those seeds to germinate plants. So what they do with these tests, which you'll see, is that these seeds are given an ideal temperature, moisture, and humidity to stimulate germination growth, and they test that. Third, this paper is utilized in testing for the presence or absence of herbicide-resistant traits. So think about Roundup. We're going to actually see that exact example of how Roundup would be tested on a seed lot. But when you think about these companies that are looking to help, quote unquote, feed the world and send seeds into a variety of different growing conditions, they want to make sure that they're sending in, you know, basically a super seed into each of those places. They know that because they test for various traits that would be found or common in those growing areas. And then finally, a lot of our customers will simply use our paper to analyze their risk with their inventory. So again, if there's a question about a seed lot, a quick way to weed that out is by doing a quick germ test. And I'll be showing you that now. I could advance. So this first test is a pretty basic seed germination test. It's called a warm germination test. And in this video, you're going to see our bread and butter product. So it's the original product that we collaborated to bring online back in 1937. We call it the OG germ paper. And you'll see here how the seeds are placed on the paper, how they're stored during the test, and then how they're evaluated. So again, you kind of get an idea in that test of how that's performed. It's typically a 6 to 8 day test, and that's pretty basic in terms of providing general germination rates. The second test that I'm going to show you specifically has to do with Roundup and testing seed vigor with the use of this product. I should have mentioned this on the previous video. Both seed lots that we're seeing here are soybeans. They're a bigger seed and they're easier just to display and show results. This product that you're going to see in this video is another one of our seed germination mediums. It's actually one that I helped develop, gosh, it would have been back in 2007, called VersaPack. It's a little bit of a thicker medium.
So there was a question from,
oh, sorry, hold on.
from somebody.
Yep.
So the sheets are just at a certain temperature and are not watered or impacted in any other way?
No. So part of the secret sauce to this paper is there's a certain amount of wet strength in it. And that wet strength is designed to hold a certain level of water for a certain period of time. So part of the specification of this sheet is that it has enough of that wet strength quality in it to hold a certain amount of water for a certain amount of time. And that germ test that you saw is called a warm germ test. They also do a cold germ test. And when I was talking about kind of those regulations, they include very specific types of tests for very specific, I guess, results that are being sought. So again, that's part of the specialty proprietary nature of this paper, is that it's made within those specs to be able to, again, retain water for a certain period of time. Did that answer the question? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So let's check out the Roundup test. It's a little different method. So pretty cool product. Again, as you can see, really, really niche-y. It fills a need that you or I mean, I certainly wouldn't have thought of prior to learning about this product. Kind of made me realize and think a lot about our food and where it comes from and how it gets to us. So this seed paper or seed germination paper product line really is a cog in the start of that wheel. Well, sorry. And so a few more details here regarding this product line. This is unique to Anchor in a lot of ways. I mean, we have a pretty broad reach and we get involved in solving a lot of different problems. But this product line is unique to us in that it is a global product. We distribute it all across North America, certainly, but all over the world. And in the last 10 years, we've probably seen half of all the testing being done in South America, Europe, and Asia in particular. And then to highlight a little bit of where we sit with this particular product line in the supply chain, it's a little bit more layered than our traditional distribution model. We start by, the product goes from the manufacturer to a converter. And what a converter does is they take, in this case, it would be large rolls of paper. Paper is made in industrial rolls, 5,000, 7,000 pound rolls. And they either take that paper and they convert it down to a smaller roll that, you know, on the print side of things would go into like a web printer, or they convert it down into sheets. In our case, that's what we were doing. We were buying sheeted product from a converter, and then we were cutting it down to whatever specialty size our customers need. From us, it goes into a seed testing lab, and from that testing lab, it would go to a seed customer. So again, you can see we're smack dab in the middle of the supply chain. And, you know, this wouldn't be a good story without some conflict, right? We were starting to, when I came into the business around 2006, we had been distributing this product for the better part of 70 years, which is an incredibly long time to have exclusive distribution of a product. And we were having a myriad of problems coming our way with retaining this product line for a number of reasons and a number of things that were happening in the industry. For one, we had kind of an expired supply chain agreement. So back in 1937, when we were collaborating on this, Anchor Paper was the problem solver for our customer, who was at the time the University of Minnesota and Cargill. They were actually kind of the pioneers in seed testing. They were trying to find a cleaner and more efficient way to germinate seeds rather than cups full of dirt and sand. As you can imagine, it's not only not clean, that's not an efficient way to do it, but there are a lot of outside factors depending on what's in your soil, what's in your sand, that can influence the result. So they were looking for a neutral medium to do this testing on a larger scale. That's where Anchor Paper came in, and we introduced them to the paper manufacturer, who was located at the time in Mosinee, Wisconsin, that we were doing some specialty work with at the time with all people, 3M, very good customer for us, and kind of thought that the synergies were a little bit similar. So enjoyed, not only got the distribution agreement in that partnership, but we also became experts and were able to develop relationships across that supply chain, i.e. with other testing labs. And that really kept us ingrained in the supply chain. But you can imagine that 70 years down the road, you start to run into gaps in knowledge there, right? The people that, were in charge of that, for lack of a better term, gentleman's agreement of, who gets to distribute what, those people were retired or had passed on. And so, when I came onto the scene in 2006, we were well underway in seeing the paper industry shrink and seeing consolidations happening at the manufacturer and mill levels. So right when I started to take over this product line, the manufacturer that had owned the machine that made this paper for 70 plus years got bought. And in the following 2 years, it got bought 2 more times. So, you guys know with acquisition, it's never business as usual. You have to explain your value and your proposition every time that happens, and you're kind of always in a defense mode. We were also being faced with, as I showed on the last slide, increased global distribution. That was something that, we had been doing in Mexico and Canada, but we had to learn and get better at, what it meant to develop relationships and logistics in global supply chain. We also had a number of competitive threats that were coming our way. Again, as things were getting disrupted on the supply chain level, we were also seeing, globalization and other people learning about this, right? And so, we're kind of seeing other manufacturers trying to kind of, develop their own secret sauce and product. And it was competitive for us. Additionally, if you recall in that supply chain graph, there was somebody in front of us that was touching this product after the manufacturer, and that was the converter. At the time, in 2006, we were really seeing rapid growth in this product line. And I think a lot of that had to do with increased globalization, right? More and more companies were looking to say, how do we better feed different areas of the globe? And so the converter that we were working with at the time just could not keep up with our demand. And it was such a specialty product, they were in a really good position to raise our prices. And, that converting channel was also seeing disruption with the industry consolidating and there being less competition around. So we had a couple different things that we were facing, and it led us to the ultimate question of how do you retain a unicorn? So again, I'm going to toss this back to you all. You guys are business students. Imagine being me back in 2006, 2007. What would you do? Give me some thoughts.
Yeah, so there was one question from before. Is the seed
Yep.
germination paper composted after use in studies without herbicides? So,
Yes, in some labs, yep. And more we are finding that it is, yeah.
mhm.
Because oftentimes those seeds are pulled off the paper and they're able to compost. Yep. And that's another reason I would say where I also, when I've presented on this, I've gotten other questions of, you know, do you worry that paper will be replaced with another medium? And certainly that's always a concern, but you know, it really is a sustainable product, both from how it's produced to how it can be disposed of. So that keeps us sticky with them.
So one answer here to your previous question, you might want to repeat the question here in a second. Buy the converter. So somebody said buy the converter. And I'm still waiting for other answers. So you might want to repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was, if you're me and you're faced with, you know, these myriad of challenges in a rapidly changing supply chain and environment, what would you do to be able to stay sticky with this product and retain it? Well, you know, whomever said buy the converter, ding, ding, ding. Remember what I said at the beginning of this, that innovation, you know, sometimes requires risk. Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what we did. We started a new chapter in our business history. Our distribution company got married. We acquired a converting operation over in Hudson, Wisconsin. Those of you familiar with the area, it was called Viex Converting. It was there for, I think, close to 20 years. We acquired this company in 2013. It was a big undertaking, but it's yielded big rewards. A couple benefits from this acquisition, as you guys are probably astutely putting together, is that it increased our overall value proposition. And this was an increased value proposition for our supplier, right? They didn't have to deal with a converter. They could send it right to us. They, you know, then kind of really, you know, we had some street cred with them that, yeah, we're the experts, we know the spec, and we also can control the manufacturing. It also gave us an increased value proposition for our customers because we could do specialty sizes for them, and we're really able to be nimble in that regard. As you can imagine, it cut our costs considerably by bringing that manufacturing in-house. For those of you that are familiar with wholesale distribution, you often get a nice deal when you buy in certain quantities. So we were certainly taking advantage of that as well. We were also able to control the quality of that product, how it was packaged and how it was presented to our customers. A lot of times we were finding that we were kind of duplicating efforts. When it would come in from the converter, we were having to change it or repackage it somehow. So it really helped us be efficient and keep the look consistent. It strengthened our position certainly in the supply chain by just making us, you know, more important. It eliminated a competitive channel, which we were also seeing some challenge with. You know, those of you that are familiar with any kind of manufacturing and sales, you know, that's one thing that at least our savvy reps always try to do. They try to get in the back door and see the manufacturing room, right? They want to see, you know, who's supplying what. And that was certainly happening with this converter. They were a big converter. And there were a lot of folks that were, you know, pointing to that goofy creped brown wrapped product, wondering what is that and where is it going? Specialty products tend to have a lot of margin attached to it. And that's certainly the case with this. And also it provided a value to our paper distribution division. So for our, you know, 20 reps that are on the street selling into commercial print, you know, they were running up against challenges, lead time, cost changes with getting specialty sizes, short runs of products. All of a sudden now we had a really big bag to sell out of. We had these relationships within the commercial print group that could benefit and use these services. And from this, we have created and gotten into private labeling, which has its own benefit for distribution. And just overall, it really enhanced our overall diversification of our business. I think when you look at a traditional distributor, what's keeping the ones that are sticking around sticky, rather, what's kept them around and kept them sticky is the addition of services. And certainly this made us really attractive, both to the supply chain, but also to customers to be able to do more with them. So made this acquisition in 2013, and fast forward 5 years, we had gotten pretty good at it, and we had a whole new problem on our hands. We got too big. So in 2019, through some considerable and awesome work with the city of River Falls, I can't say enough how nice it was to work with a city that wanted, you know, newcomers, and we're excited for business expansion. Really, at the time, we were looking, because we wanted to preserve our workforce, to stay in Hudson. But as soon as we kind of sat down and worked with the city of River Falls, it was really clear that this was going to be our home and a really great place for us. So in the fall and early winter of 2019, just before the global pandemic, we expanded and moved into an integrated paper and packaging converting facility. It's about 87,500 square feet of mostly production and manufacturing space. For some context, that's about 3 times bigger than what we were working out of over in Hudson. We added some capacity. We added a couple machines to this operation because we were so underserved from a production standpoint. So those added machines have offered and added new product and channel opportunities for us. We've continued to add talent, which is great. I mean, as you know, wins beget wins, and we have a culture of asking questions, being curious, and learning. So this has been really great for you know, existing team to expand their knowledge and do new things. I'll get back to keeping us sticky. This expanded operation has really allowed us to do more with our existing customers and to attract new ones. And again, has really strengthened our overall competitive advantage. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I'd love to take questions, but just kind of a reminder, because I think oftentimes when I think about innovation, I think of, you know, the iPhone or Uber, or some of these big things. But I think it's really important that innovation often starts small and it favors the long game. And so, you know, if I can impart anything to you guys today, it's a, you know, constant gardening lifetime of, you know, looking to stay sticky, being persistent, having courage, asking questions, you know, not being afraid to fail, getting back up and asking more questions. And I really love this quote from Winston Churchill that says, "Success is not final." Very true. "Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." And I know for us at Anchor Paper, that's the only reason we're 2 years out of celebrating 100 years, is because we've kept going, and we've done it, you know, staying curious. So on behalf of me and my, oh yeah, and don't forget to take a leap of faith. On behalf of me and my COVID quarantine puppy, thank you very much. And you know, what goes hand in hand with innovation, but disruption. So if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. Don't forget that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You know, what's interesting is that you said you aren't like an Uber or another technology company. In the chat, there actually were a couple of comments is that you are like Apple in the tech world, because they became vertical as well in how they designed their products as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a little bit of a comparison there. You know, the audience immediately saw that. I also love what what seems to be a core value again about be curious, ask questions, ask more questions, I like that as a core value because that is so integral to the innovation process. I do have somebody who would like to ask a question. Doug Margolis would like to ask a question. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can ask a question.
Hi, thank you, Marina. And Brooke, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Very interesting to learn about your company. I've seen the anchor sign before too, and it was interesting to recognize that, oh, there's a face now to connect with that sign. My question for you is, I'm thinking about your company and the possible opportunities that you might have for some of our students to do internships there or to be hired after graduation maybe. And we're working really hard these days on an academic plan and strategic plan for our campus. And I was wondering, what do you see as the qualities and the knowledge and skills that you want to see people coming to you with? What do you think is most important for us to focus on in the university for education? Thanks.
Well, I mean, getting back to, and thank you for your question, Doug. Getting back to being curious, asking questions, that is one of the first things I tell people. I mean, first of all, I onboard, I'm part of that process with every employee. And one of the questions that I ask them is, after I, kind of give our little spiel and do my portion of it, is I say, I ask them, ask me anything, and then I encourage that throughout. I mean, I have an open door policy and I believe really strongly in that. But I think staying curious is important. I think that, we're living in a business and a world climate that is changing faster than we're able to keep up with. And companies today really can't afford not to be innovative and challenge the status quo. And so I think that, encouraging your students to stay in that mindset of change and efficiency and continuous improvement. Again, it's not for the faint of heart, but I think those are the resilient qualities that I think we're going to keep people and companies in the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I would have to say too, I agree with everything that you've said, and obviously yours is born out of experience as well, is building that agility into an organization so that it can adapt. Obviously you face some changes on multiple fronts that you had to adapt to. Higher education is like that as well. There are multiple fronts that are changing. This past year was a time of a lot. We're literally within 2 weeks we had to adapt to a different model, and our students had to adapt as well. And so, teaching the innovation process of always asking questions, but you also said, don't be afraid to fail. What we say is fail early, fail often, but it isn't right. It isn't fatal. Failure is not fatal. Failure just means that you learned something.
Right. Well, and it's really a vital part of the process, right? I mean, I joke when that same manager that was kind of grilling me about how I thought about paper, the other thing she told me, never take the first no, I mean, just keep going, you hit a wall, pivot. And that's, I think that's really important to the process as well. And yeah, it's not fatal. I mean, that's where we learn the most. So I think you have to create an environment and a culture where it's okay to fail, but have accountability for what's the follow-up, what's the corrective action, how are you gonna pivot? And so I know we've had to do that, in the last 10 months, especially as, we've been deemed essential, needed to operate and have, I don't want to say thrived, but, we are, if the numbers that I'm seeing are valid industry-wide, we have bucked those numbers. And I think largely a lot of that is because we have a comfortable environment here to not, fail and shrink, but to put your shoulders back and keep going.
There's another question in the chat.
Great.
What lessons have you learned from COVID, and what changes has your business made in response to COVID?
That's a great question. From a leadership perspective, I would say how important it is to lead from the front and be transparent. I think especially in the first couple months, the first couple weeks, nobody knew anything. And so, just saying anything was helpful. I mean, we didn't know what was going on in those first few weeks, and we certainly had to, we supply some core folks to include 3M, and I'll never forget getting a message from one of their labs in Minnesota that makes respirators that said, you guys cannot miss a shipment. And we were committed to that, to getting that done. But I literally got in front of our folks every day. I started the morning with them, and that was really important. I mean, I've found that when I was delayed or I was, missed that address by a couple minutes, I had people texting me, hey, where are you? What's going on? I mean, just being, having that sense of, consistency and normalcy, if I can say that, was really important. And so that was an important lesson. I think another important lesson is really direction flows from the top. And again, I will say we've operated this whole time, and it was pretty scary at first from a safety perspective. And I got right in front of everybody and said, I don't want anybody to be worried about missing, losing vacation time or sick time. We are all one big family here. If you don't feel good, don't come in, because you don't know what, we don't know what this looks like. And we all know each other's families. We know, what kids or spouses have underlying conditions, and, take care of yourself first, but then take care of your peers. And that I've been so impressed with our team. They really have taken care of each other at this time. And I think it's okay to be human and be a little emotional when it comes to business.
Another question is, how do you prioritize research and development?
That's a really, really, really good question. Sometimes it comes down to a cost structure. So there are some things where we'll look at certain opportunities and just, depending on if they're within tolerance or I guess if they're challenged from a supply chain perspective, but yet like a high value thing, that's tough for us. We don't want to, we've passed on some high touch medical applications just because, while we're in the process of getting a number of certifications at that River Valley converting facility, there is some risk that we're just not accustomed, or that we're not feeling good at this time taking on. A lot of times I would say we assess it based on, how does it fit into our model? With taking the risk on buying Viex Converting in 2013, that was a really great example of looking at what that operation did, the business that fit within it. It was kind of a nice add-on to what we were already currently selling, right? The machines in that facility that we acquired, their sweet spots, for converting were core products that we were already distributing. So there was, a seamless, nothing's ever seamless, but there was a more seamless integration component that was attractive to us. But I guess if you're looking for a formal process, we kind of lack that a little bit. I mean, again, we're very collaboration oriented. We have, a number of leadership and department meetings where that, ideas are encouraged, and we do vet those, but we don't have a good, documented process, I guess, for that.
There was a comment in the chat, what FAIL stands for, first attempt in learning.
Oh, I like that.
I do too. So what do the next 5 years look like in terms of innovation and being proactive about change?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think for the paper side of things, it's just continuing to be really honest about where that industry is going. One reason I think that Anchor is so sticky is, we value our suppliers as a really almost as important as our customers, and we make it a point to stay very connected with them. There are just some trends that can't be ignored of where that industry is shrinking. So that was another reason why we felt like getting into converting was a good opportunity and a good bet, because as the manufacturing part of the supply chain has shrunk and or been acquired, those manufacturers have a lot, they are doing a lot more with little, and they need converters more and more to handle those short runs and specialty sizes. Printers are also not printing as much as they used to. What might have been, a multi-truckload run, because it was, a mailed circulated pamphlet is maybe now half of that. A lot of these mills, they don't want to do that. They want to farm it out. So I think that we're going to continue to grow on the converting side of things, and do more direct converting for our mill suppliers. That's one reason why we didn't call that converting facility in River Falls Anchor Paper Converting. We called it River Valley Converting, because we wanted a little bit of distance outside of the traditional distribution merchant that we are, because people know us. We've got a pretty good reputation. We've been around for 100 years. We sort of, it's, the worst kept secret that we own it, right? But, that little bit of separation makes it a lot easier to work in that channel. So I do expect that we're going to see that, we would call that contract converting. That part of our business will likely grow. But I do expect that we're going to see, industrial manufacturing products and services take up more and more of that piece of the pie. I would think that in 5 more years, we're going to probably see that swing to about 60% packaging and 40% paper. Even in e-commerce and fulfillment alone, we are doing more and more and more in that sector.
Mm-hmm. Here's another question. In addition to encouraging intellectual curiosity and challenging the status quo, how do you validate your employees, and how long do they typically stay with your company?
That's a great question. We have a high level of tenure here at Anchor. So actually at each of our facilities, when you walk in, we have what we call a wall of honor, and it ranges from 5-year tenure to 40. And we actually just had 2 gentlemen retire this at the end of 2020 that had been with us for 40 years, which is pretty incredible. We have a number that have hit that 30 mark. So, high level of tenure, which, is really positive in some ways. In other ways, it makes transferring that knowledge pretty challenging. But we like to validate our employees through encouraged collaboration. As I mentioned, we're an employee-owned company. We rally around that, we celebrate it, and we really encourage a lot of cross-training and the sharing of knowledge. So, as much as we have, a pretty solid group of tenured individuals, we actually have a really kind of solid group of 20 to 35-year-olds that have come in. And, I kind of expected there to be more challenge with integrating those workforces, but really, it's fun. You kind of see the more tenured folks teaching some of these younger folks, paper applications and where you would, use XYZ basis weight or size. And then, I see the 20 to 30-year-olds teaching, some of the more tenured folks how to send a PDF, things like that. And actually I have a group that's doing little computer, they call it breakfast hour for brain power. They're doing it over our WebEx, but showing just how to do various things with technology and within our system. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, but we do celebrate tenure when employees hit, I don't know if you're familiar with ESOP companies, but we have a vesting period. So when our employees start to get vested, which is in 6 years, and then when they start to hit milestones, we celebrate that. We send out an all company notice. We have a corporate gift program. And so at that 2-year mark, 5-year mark, 6, and then, 10, 20, 30, we celebrate that corporately, and we also recognize it individually. So.
Another question here as a follow-on is, how long have you been an employee-owned company?
We have been an employee-owned company since 1987.
Okay.
And that was one way for our second generation owner. It's kind of an interesting situation when you talk about succession planning. He had a partner who died unexpectedly, and he needed to buy those shares in a quick fashion. He just didn't have the capital. So it was a way for him to do that without getting a loan. At the time, we were in kind of a transformational growth in the 50s, because offset printing had really taken off in the 40s. And so he wanted to reward our team by giving them some stake and skin in the game. So I believe it started, if I'm remembering correctly, as a 20% ownership, and then as it has succeeded, through the generations, it's creeped up to 49%. And it's great for our tenured employees. I mean, several of these gentlemen that just retired after 40 years, went home with a nice little nest egg, and it's also a great retention tool for folks coming in that want a career somewhere. So.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Us today. This has been absolutely fascinating. I also want to thank the community here who joined us today and were so active in the chat as well. We really, I just appreciate that kind of engagement so much from the community, and the support and so forth. So thank you very much, and we wish you all the best luck, and I hope we continue to keep engaged with each other as well. This has been, I think could be a good relationship with the university to continue deepening that relationship. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.